Time now for notable calls. In the past 3 months, utilities are the second best performing group of stocks in the S&P 500 after technology. They are the second best performing group in Toronto, by the way, over that same stretch, albeit with smaller gains. One of the big drivers for this sector has been the conversation around AI. The idea of all the power needed to fuel that technology will increase the need for power sources. It's a trend to watch. But what happens to utility stocks when they've had a big gain? Alec Young of Map Signals says buyer beware. We spoke with him last week after he had looked back at utility sector performance 1 year after a big quarter of outperformance, and history suggests to him the sector will underperform the S&P 500 by about 2.5% in the next 12 months. And he brought up an interesting point, which has gotten lost in all the hype around AI fueling power. He notes utilities, at the end of the day, are regulated, and the regulators decide what they can charge. So for those who are bullish on the AI story surrounding power stocks, his call is to take some profits given the sector's advance. Staying with AI, the biggest stock story has been Nvidia, now one of the most valuable companies in the world, with excitement beyond belief. Of course, we've seen moments of big excitement in the past, including here in Canada. Remember the rise and subsequent fall of Nortel? Well, one of our regular guests has been thinking a lot about that. Ross Healy is the chairman of Strategic Analysis Corporation and a portfolio manager at MacNicol Associates. Ross, it's great to see you.
Nice to be on with you, John.
Okay, so the backstory on all of this that got you started on this theme, tell us about that.
Okay, first of all, I encountered this interesting book by Annie Duke called Quit. It's entitled The Power of Knowing When to Walk Away. Now, I have been positive on Nvidia, actually all the way up until last week, and in which I changed my rating from a hold buy, to a sell. And that's because the stock has reached a valuation level which I do not think it can go any further, and there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, if I can talk about three price reasons. First of all, the price to book is at roughly about 60 times. Okay, and if that's doesn't bother you very much, the price to sales is 41 times. Now, the PE ratio is 76. Now that's on the trailing earnings. So this is clearly a Graham Dodd and Cottle stock, isn't it? As you can see, kind of thing you'd want to tuck away in your RSP for the next 10 years. So the stock has actually become almost like a gamble. And when you look at the fundamentals, because those are the numbers, let's go look at the business fundamentals. First of all, the number of competitors of Nvidia has just mushroomed, and they're all at the low end of things. Listen, Nvidia's got the Cadillac of the chips, but how many people can drive a Cadillac? And how many people who can drive a Cadillac haven't already purchased a Cadillac? Whereas the low-end chips are, they're now going into Apple and things like that. Okay, there's a huge potential market for that. But this is like Tesla, okay? They had the high end, and then suddenly there was all of these people at the low end. And what happened to the stock? Well, the stock has dropped in half so far. Thirdly, if we look at the business that AI has actually generated, a company called Sequoia Capital did a study of it, and they said, look at, Nvidia has sold, I think, $50 billion worth of chips. How much business, incremental business, can we actually identify? And the answer was $3 billion. Well, John, those things don't work out. And what's really interesting is that, so how are the big companies reacting to it? Microsoft and Google or Alphabet, who have these big server farms, well, they are cutting back drastically in that area, which tells you that you'd better be cautious. Okay? Now, On top of it all, if we take a bit of a longer view, we got to remember something about the semiconductor business, and that is to say it's very cyclical. And if you get up there and you have a stock at this kind of a level, it's just like going back to 2000 when we had Amazon way up there. Well, you know, the stock fell 93% from top to bottom in a cyclical downturn. So we got to be very careful of this.
Yeah, and since you were also thinking about the rise and fall of Nortel,
yes,
which we started with,
yep.
Remind our audience, knowing when to sell or walk away, as the book would suggest,
yes,
what one has to keep in mind. What's happening around the time when you have to start thinking about that? Because there's plenty of people who are very bullish on Nvidia. At the time when you felt it was prudent to walk away from a Nortel, what was the mood of the market?
Well, the mood of the market was, by the way, exactly the same on Nvidia as Nortel back then. After I had issued my sell on the stock, all kinds of people phoned in and emailed in to well, it wasn't BNN, it was ROB, MacNicol at the time, and said, never invite that man back on again. I mean, look at his white hair. What does he know about the 21st century? Well, it turned out I knew a fair amount.
But just the challenge, I think, for people to give up on a winner when you've got, you know, strategists who are saying AI is going to continue to fuel and this stock is leading the charge.
I have no doubt that AI is going to continue to drive, but the question is, where is the business going to be? Is it going to be at the high end, which I suspect, by the way, is probably pretty well already serviced, or is it going to be at the much lower end? Is it going to be with, like Apple, which is launching this phone with an AI capability? So
you had held Nvidia stock.
Yes.
And have you now sold your Nvidia? You're just out.
Out.
And you're feeling good about it.
I'm feeling very good about it. It's not the kind of thing that I would want to hold. I don't even think I want to hold it short term, to tell you the truth, John, because it's already reached a technical condition in our work, which tells us that the stock is an absolute sell.